Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. As you all know, I've been filming a number of these S10 episodes at the same time, so I can basically make sure the videos don't get too long, and I wanted to make sure to highlight key portions of the build that I thought you guys would enjoy. I'm trying to get this truck a whole new lease on life, restoring what I can, updating the rest, and of course having a little bit of fun in the process by swapping in a 350 small block V8. That being said, today's video is the last major task that I needed to complete before I could put the body back on the frame and get everything prepared to put the engine in for the last time. A while back when I was working on the Jimmy restoration series, I had done a video of stripping down the Jimmy's interior and installing a whole bunch of sound deadening products from my friends over at Second Skin. I plan on doing a bunch of similar upgrades to this truck whenever I get around to working on the interior, but I'm also taking it quite a bit further this time by applying a significant amount of their Spectrum liquid sound deadener. Now this stuff is really cool, and of course I'll talk about it more in just a moment, but it not only works to help kill noise and vibrations, but when it's fully cured, it forms a permanent bond with the surface that you're applying it to, and there's rust inhibitors built in, so it makes for a really good undercoating. My original plan for this video was to completely coat the underside of the cab and work on cleaning up the firewall, stripping everything off, repainting it, simplifying the wire harness, and just all that good stuff. But because Spectrum also has some heat-resistant properties, I've decided to go ahead and coat the firewall as well. Depending on how you're building whatever vehicle that you're building, you may not think that the extra sound deadening is worth the effort, but it's one of those over-the-top things that I truly believe if you want to put forth the extra effort to do it and to do it properly with a combination of different products, the end results will be well worth it. Specifically with this truck, there's going to be a lot going on, obviously. It's going to sound really good, it's going to be really fun to drive, but I also want to make this truck nicer in the process. When you climb inside, I don't want it to feel like a 30-year-old pickup, so this is step one in helping me achieve that goal. For the sake of time, I went ahead and did all of my prep work underneath the cab. I degreased and washed everything underneath here, sanded it all down, wiped everything down in alcohol, and primed what needed to be primed. Also, one more thing. In the powertrain test fit video, I mentioned that there was a little lip of metal that extends down from the firewall and goes basically the full width of the truck, including around the transmission tunnel. I was thinking about bending it back just to free up some extra room around the bell housing bolts to make it easier to get tools in there. I went ahead and did that. It just sticks down about a ½ inch and it bends back super easy. I didn't want to cut it out because there's spot welds holding things together, so making sure all of that stays intact is important. Once that lip was bent back, I took some seam sealer and ran it all the way around the edge to make sure all of that was sealed up nice and tight. So once the undercoat or the Spectrum goes over all of it, it should make a really nice seamless transition from the firewall to the tunnel and give me a whole bunch of extra room in the process. Before we get started, of course, a huge thanks to O'Reilly Auto Parts for supporting the content. Regardless of whether you're working on a project car or need to get some regular maintenance done, don't forget to check out O'ReillyAuto.com and take advantage of the exclusive discount code SAABKyle20, which gets you 20% off of purchases of $100 or more. I put a link in the description box below. The prep work is never fun, but it is quite crucial. I went ahead and got all of my plastic barriers set up in place. We got plastic all over the floor. With this spray gun setup that I got from Second Skin, there's really not a whole lot of overspray that's going to be had, but since I'm in the shop, I just want to make sure I can keep things as clean as possible. We are ready to dive into it now, so I'm going to go ahead and get my spray gun set up, get my mask on, and get to it. Alright, the cab has been fully undercoated. When this truck is actually able to get back out of the shop, I'm going to wheel the bed in here also and do the underside of that. But I ended up putting on about 3 coats, so about 3 millimeters of thickness. I just did the other coats off camera because in North Carolina, we're having some crazy temperature fluctuations. Not unlike North Carolina, of course, but one day it'll go from like 65 and then a couple days later it'll be like 30. So I've been kind of scrambling around to get all of this undercoating and frame painting out of the way while I actually still had some nice weather. In case any of you are thinking about doing this to your project, there's a couple of the really cool things about Spectrum that I want to share. First off, compared to the typical foil-backed butyl mats that you can use like within the interior and stuff, when you apply Spectrum in an equal thickness to those butyl mats, this actually provides better noise and vibration reduction over a greater range of frequencies, and in comparing thicknesses, this is actually a lighter product. So if you're trying to go for more weight reduction, but you still want to get some benefits of added sound deadening, it's a really good option. The other main thing is that Spectrum does not gas out like bedliner does. If you've ever sprayed bedliner before, you know what I'm talking about, but when I was redoing this frame, it was terrible. Even with my respirator and the door open, you just gotta go out and get some oxygen every now and then. But with the Spectrum, it doesn't leave a gnarly, lasting smell for, while it cures, which is just fantastic. If you make a mess, thankfully it's water soluble so you can easily clean it up, but you need to do it within a reasonable amount of time because if you wait too long and let it dry, it basically becomes a permanent member of whatever it touches, which is great. Just be careful. At this point, I'll go ahead and lower the body back down on the frame and install all brand new bushings, so we're starting with a nice fresh foundation. Once all of that is taken care of, I can start working on the firewall, clean up the wire harness, and prep everything for a refinish. All of the new mounts are in place and the body alignment shims are in their respective spots. Now I can finish lowering the cab and bolt everything up. Everything's looking really good so far, so I'm going to go ahead and start working on the firewall. I got to first make sense of this wire harness and figure out what I do and don't need, then I can start stripping everything down. I've got the engine harness almost completely disconnected, but it goes into the firewall right there underneath the heater box, so I need to go in, disconnect it from the computer. There's a little clip back there holding the grommet on, and then I should be able to just pull the rest of it out. So here's the computer. It was a little tight to try to film a bunch of different angles of pulling it out, but it tucks up in the dash vertically in the far right side of the dash, and the only thing holding it on is a metal plate and a 7mm screw. So once you take that out, you just wiggle it around for a bit and it'll eventually drop down free. But like I said, I have to pull out the electrical connectors so I can fish the rest of the engine harness through the firewall. Alright, the wires are unplugged, and if you look way back in there, you can see the hole where the harness goes through the firewall. There's a rubber grommet attached to the harness, And there's this little plastic 90 degree that forces the harness to go towards the right side of the dash. You have to take that out because it secures the grommet in place. Then you just push it all the way through. So here's the harness all laid out. Obviously, since the truck will no longer be fuel injected, there's a lot of stuff that I can get rid of out of here. So I'm basically going to strip off all the old wire loom. Thankfully, I've got everything labeled. So I'm going to trace everything, figure out what I don't need, get rid of it, and make the harness a whole lot simpler and cleaner. However, the first thing I want to do is finish getting this firewall in order. I got the firewall pretty much stripped down with the exception of this wire harness right here. It's for the heater box and AC system, but where it comes through the firewall, it's behind the dash in a spot that I just can't get easy access to, so it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna support the harness so I can make sure to get a nice even coat around everything, and so the harness doesn't accidentally fall down and hit the body in the process. But I'm at the point right now where I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping everything to lay the sound deadening. I'm gonna redo the inside of the cowl right here and follow this body line all the way down with the material, and then that will be covered up by the foam insulators that were there like you saw a second ago. So everything's gonna look really nice by the time it's all said and done, and I just can't wait to see, you know, shiny black everywhere. It's going to be so clean. I ended up staying at the shop a little late last night to go ahead and get all of my prep work out of the way. I got some primer laid down, so when morning came around, I was ready to go ahead and start laying some sound deadeners, so let's start spraying. This is actually looking pretty awesome so far. Enough time has passed by that I'm gonna go ahead and start laying some paint down, and that's gonna really make it pop. Like I did on the frame, I'm gonna be using the Ford semi-gloss black engine enamel. I've already done that side. I don't know if you can tell from over here, but it's just enough sheen. It's gonna make it really pop. some people may not care for the textured finish. It really doesn't bother me, and honestly, giving credit where it's due, the Spectrum has very consistent texture all the way across the Firewall. Of course, it depends on, you know, how you're spraying and making sure you got nice even layers, but this end product is going to be fantastic, and again, we're going to have the added benefit of the noise and vibration reduction and some extra heat insulation. Just to give you a quick look at what I've painted so far, there's the line where I stop. And over here is just one layer of paint so far. Not too shiny, but just enough to give it a nice finished look. Now let's tackle the other side. The truck is really starting to come together now. The Firewall turned out fantastic. I'm loving the frame, and like you saw in the last episode, I got the front suspension all back together. Since this video is already getting kind of long, I'm going to wrap it up right here because there's a handful of things that I want to just get done off camera so I can make some more progress and get back to some more engine content. So along with putting things back on the Firewall and just getting everything bolted up and cleaned up, I'm going to be replacing the heater core and the evaporator because everything's already taken apart. I've already got the lower section of the dashboard pulled out over there, so it's just a matter of undoing a few more things and the heater core comes out. For anybody curious, there's actually a video on YouTube of a guy replacing the heater core in one of these square body S10s, and he does a really good job at explaining this. So it's a no-brainer to go ahead and get that done. Plus, since I, of course, again, have the heater box all torn apart, I'm going to replace the evaporator. So after all that's done, the entire heat and air system is going to be brand new in this truck. I also have to swap in my high clearance heater box cover to make some more room for my valve covers. As far as the wire harness, I'm not sure if I'm going to feature a piece of content on that or not. It just depends on the time frame and stuff, but I still have to work on that. The rest of the harness is on the floor back over there, but I mean, that's pretty much it. This is looking great. That's going to wrap it up for this video. The next video is going to involve rebuilding the whole steering system and doing some extra stuff on the interior to not only fix some things, but give the interior a little bit of flair in the process. So I'm pretty pumped about that. If you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so because obviously there's a whole lot more content where that came from. And don't forget to leave a like below because it really helps the videos a lot. Of course, a big thanks to those of you who have been keeping up with the series. It truly means a lot. And a big thanks once again to O'Reilly Auto Parts for their support with the content. Also, don't forget, SaabKyle20, O'ReillyAuto.com. Take advantage of that discount. A link is in the description box below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.